Well, we're back over in Gardener's Cottage on the North Norfolk coast in Blakeney, and we've come to do some garden maintenance. On a turnover day, we have got some nice begonias that we've picked up at the Edgefield nursery on the way over this morning. We're just giving those a really good soak to make sure that the compost is wet right the way through, and then they will go into the mirrored plant holder here in the entrance at Gardener's. There it is. That should be full of lovely pink begonias in a minute to welcome guests as they arrive here this afternoon. Garden's starting to look quite autumnal here, but we've still got some lovely early autumn sunlight. These phloxes have flowered really well this summer. Been really pleased with them. Managed to keep them from drying out, which is the usual problem. Still a couple of agapanthus giving us a little flash of flowers. The climbing iceberg's really performing nicely now with a second flush of flowers. Should keep going on that frost-free wall right the way through to the end of October, maybe some years even into November. These little cyclamen are really starting to brighten up this patch of earth here, and it's right adjacent to the planting that we did last week. And this is looking quite nice. The roses seem to have established themselves well. Buds are opening up, starting to give us a flush of colour in this corner. Particularly good one, that. I think that is our Beth, which was just covered in bud when we planted it, and it's still going really nicely in this spot. That's a cracking little plant. Really good buy from Peter Beals down in Attleborough. Very pleased with that. Lovely late autumn flower of Albertine here. Not a rose that I'd expect normally to give you a second flush, but there it is doing its thing, and it's beautifully scented, this one as well. This is the star performer this week. Not quite as florid as it was in its first flush earlier in the season, but a very welcome addition to the flower on this wall at this time of year, and it's underplanted with this beautiful double white Japanese anemone, which is growing nicely now. It takes about 3 or 4 years to get this plant established, but when it does get going, rewards you with these flowers throughout autumn, which just pick up that brightness of the Albertine. I'm thinking of trying to turn this into a white border, and we're part way there with the rose plantings. Would have to lose the Albertine, which would be a real shame, and the buddleias would need to come out as well. So maybe for next year. But autumn's a great time to start thinking about what's gone well in the garden and what hasn't performed well. It's also a good time to continue planting, and if you're considering moving some plants, good time to get them established while there's still some warmth in the soil and the air before the first frosts start to arrive. One bit of aftercare we have followed on with this week is given all these newly planted shrubs and herbaceous plants a really good watering again, because despite us having had a good amount of rain over the last week, we still want to make sure that these don't dry out at all, and they'll need looking after while they get their roots down over the next 6 to 8 weeks, and we go into the early stages of winter here. Another bit of work we've done here today is in this long border that you look out over down the length of the garden from the kitchen window. Let's plant a couple of new roses in this area. This is the rose Timeless Cream, which is a good floribunda rose. It's a good cut rose as well, and is actually marketed by a company called the Home Florists. It's a particularly good long-standing cut rose. And looking at the form of these buds and the flowers this little plants are producing, you can see why. Lovely shiny green foliage. Got a little bit of limescale on where we've given it a good water over the past week. I'm hoping these will establish themselves well here and give us a flush of late colour. It's a cream coloured rose, as the name suggests. Good scent. Fades gradually to a almost pure white before it falls. And we've planted a row of 3 of them in amongst this other herbaceous planting with the white clematis and the white roses. think that'll form a very nice display and hopefully lift this border with a bit of extra colour towards the end of the season where it's starting to look a bit green with not too many highlights. On the opposite side of the little bit of lawn, just inside of the gravel, we've planted this white phlox, which again will hopefully give us a highlight. And just to finishing off our gardening tasks here at Blakeney this afternoon, begonias in situ, front of the mirrored plant holder by the front door. It's a lovely little bit of design this, with the mirror behind. It really emphasises the colour and gives you almost twice the flowering that you would have without the mirrored background. So we're all ready for our next set of guests here at Gardeners.